A 55-mile drive in a showdown against the nation's dynasty, the UConn Huskies were the only thing separating the women's basketball team from a trip to the Sweet 16. Two teams with undefeated conference records, seniors from each program with 100-plus wins. Did the more deserving team come out on top? We're about to break it down and exchange some final roars. Are you ready to rumble? Because Bobcat Breakdown starts right now. Happy first day of spring, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to Bobcat Breakdown. I'm Robin Brown, and I'm pleased to be joined by Sierra Goodwill and Josh Silverman. I hope you both are doing well, but more importantly, how are your brackets doing?
Mine was busted when Arizona lost, so I haven't paid much attention since then.
I'm just happy that there's a region with a 5, 7, 9, and 11 seed, but my bracket is almost busted. I have Villanova winning. Baker's here from Villanova, so I was like, yeah, I'll go with Villanova. I don't know too much about it, but we'll see what happens.
Well, let's get into the madness. The Quinnipiac women's basketball team traveled to Storrs, Connecticut last night to face Gino Auriemma and the UConn Huskies in the round of 32, although losing 71-46. Sierra, Josh, what are your positive takeaways from this matchup?
Well, Josh, I'll start it off because there's some clear positives that you can take away just from looking at the box score. I mean, they held UConn to 33 points at the half. That's their second lowest amount of scoring in a half this whole season. And they only committed 7 turnovers, the least amount of any UConn opponent this season. So they clearly weren't frazzled. They were poised, they were confident. But I think a major positive is their game plan. Clearly, they didn't execute it as well as they wanted to because they only had 12 hours or so to prep, but using that whole shot clock, those full 30 seconds and limiting UConn's possessions really seems to be beneficial. And I think that you will see either going forward in this tournament or next season, other teams, maybe Power 5 teams with taller, faster, more talented players, using Trisha Fabry's methods and maybe being successful against UConn and going forward.
Yeah, well, I guess you got a copy of my notes before the show. I don't know how that happened, but that was the number one thing I touched on in recaps and everything was just Trisha Fabry had the greatest game plan that I could think of. The team before that played UConn, chucked up as many shots as possible. I guess that's a strategy to try to outshoot them. That's not going to work against UConn. So you want to control the game, and that's what Trisha Fabry did. And I think she gets all the credit in the world for it, and she really got recognized for that. The other thing that I'm going to add is just that, I touched upon this when I was on here with Dylan earlier this season. It's just you want to get players like Jen Fay and Erin McClure who don't get the opportunity to play teams like this that often. I mean, Jen Fay had 12 points. I know that doesn't sound like a ton of points, especially for her, but 12 points against UConn, especially with the amount of shots and how, they use so much of the clock. It's great, and her and Erin McClure and Paula Strautmane and Edel Thorne and Brittany Martin, everyone on the lineup is going to be able to carry that into next season. That experience beyond basketball, just as a person, you'll be able to grow, and knowing that you competed with UConn, and it's just going to help you as a person and help this program moving forward.
Absolutely.
So as a mid-major program, winning 3 games in the tournament these last 2 years,
I'm going to start off saying that because you set the standard high, and they want to be looked at as the nation's best. Now, they have the respect from the committee getting the 9 seed in the tournament. They have the respect from teams around the country. They have the respect from Gino Auriemma, the team in women's basketball. So now you got to live up to it. You got to live up to the expectations you set for yourself. And so, yeah, you're gonna have to win a game in the NCAA tournament to maintain that standard of excellence that you set for yourself. And next year, I think it would be a disappointment if they didn't, because they have pretty much everyone coming back except Carly Fabry. Obviously, she's important. She's their point guard. Everything runs through her. But other than that, their top scorers, their top rebounders, their defensive studs, they're all coming back, plus the new recruits. If they don't win a game in the NCAA tournament next year, it is not a successful season.
I agree. We'll touch upon this a bit moving forward, but I said as long as they're in the MAC. As long as they're in the MAC, they should. This is now their ceiling. And, they've talked about earning respect and being validated, and that's how you do it. That's how you do. Making the NCAA tournament is not going to be enough for this team moving forward. This is a special team with a fantastic coaching staff, as we've seen the last 2 years. So yes, especially when you will be most likely between a 7 and a 10 or 11 seed moving forward. I don't see them getting above 12 unless something were to happen in the regular season or they were to lose every out-of-conference game or some sort of weird circumstance. So between a 7 and a 10 seed, and I asked Trisha Fabry after the game, you were the 9 seed, you were the underdog. She said, no, we weren't the underdog. So they don't view themselves as the underdog. Right. I bet if you ask anyone on their team, they will say that yes, their floor is one game in the NCAA tournament. I believe their ceiling is probably the round of
right now they're in
32.
that danger zone, that 9 seed where you have to face the 1 seed in that second round, the 8 seed. So now they really have to try to make that jump to the 7 seed to have a chance to make it back to the Sweet 16. So at least now there's something else for this team to kind of reach for going forward.
Yeah, and it's going to be tough. I mean, that's a great point about the 9 seed. It's like a double-edged sword in that way. But I think the 9 seed just is the respect from the committee and the validation that they've yearned for. Now they have, and so the next couple of years is going to be really interesting for this program.
Seedings, though, is it time to move on from the MAC and into a new conference?
Yes, but do I think that they will do so soon? No. For the women's team, if it was up to them, absolutely, they need to get out. They're dominating. They need to be challenged. They've clearly shown that they can compete with much more skilled teams than those in the MAC. But when you look at like field hockey, who moved into the Big East, they didn't have a male counterpart.
Right.
The male counterpart is nowhere near ready to leave the MAC here at Quinnipiac. The men's basketball team is not getting out of the MAC anytime soon. They have not made it to the NCAA tournament in Division I history. They need a MAC championship game. They need a MAC championship game win. And Baker Dunleavy, I do think he can do it, but obviously that's the team that's pulling them down. And so they won't get out until they succeed. But obviously, I think the Bobcats would succeed in a higher conference, especially even one like the American. But another issue with that is the money. I mean, when you get into these bigger conferences, the other schools are far away, and then they have to provide planes. And I don't know if the conference if the NCAA is willing to chalk up that money to a mid-major just yet.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, Sierra, but I'm actually going to take that and then also disagree a bit because I think they're in a perfect spot now. I think in a couple of years it's going to be tedious if they do keep winning one game in the NCAA tournament. But right now they essentially have a guaranteed path to the NCAA tournament, to the big dance. So, you can take that and keep scheduling these tough out-of-conference games, get even, tougher, maybe schedule UConn a year or two down the road, maybe not a year or two, maybe 3 or 4 years down the road. But, they're going to keep getting better and better recruits because this team is getting better and better. So you get really tested in the out-of-conference, and then you go to conference and you win the games, 19, 20, whatever it is, lose one game, and then you're basically guaranteed to go to the NCAA tournament. So, going to one of those harder conferences, you're not guaranteed that. So they'll face the tougher competition in the middle of the season. The guaranteed tournament, I think, is what you want.
But they'll be getting better and better recruits for the MAC. They'd be getting better recruits than that if they were in a better conference because it's just that much more appealing. So I'll have to disagree with you there.
So you guys both mentioned that this team can clearly compete. But last year's team, they had 29 wins, and this year they have 28. So in your opinion, which squad was better?
You can start this time.
I can start this time? Well, thank you, Sierra. In my opinion, I think this team was better. And when you look at the roster, it's not necessarily about, last year's team had the names of Morgan Manson and Ali Martucci were great players for last year's team. But I love how each and every player that played last year stepped up. I mean, the transformation that Brittany Martin and Edel Thornton went through this year to become great players, and that completely showed in the last 2 NCAA tournament games, cannot be understated. That in addition to Paula Charbonnet cutting down the fouls and being an even better defender, Erin McClure adding the 3-point shot to her resume, and Jen Fay, just everything. I mean, on the low post, behind the arc, we know what she can do. Each player has stepped up. I also think the coaching staff has gotten better after seeing South Carolina and seeing these other teams in the tournament last year. So, yeah, last year's team, had so much more success in terms of winning one more game in the NCAA tournament, but this year's team was more talented.
Watching that video just validated my point even better. There is no way that you can tell me that last year's team wasn't better. Okay, you can give me undefeated in MAC, the winning streak,
well,
whatever.
I'm not saying that because the MAC, I'll let you go.
Yeah. Anyways, last year's team, you can't tell me one player who played this year wasn't there last year. Just last year also had Adelie Martucci and Morgan Manns, and in the buy-in from this year's team started with last year's team and Adelie Martucci. And you can't tell me that there's one player on this team who has the defensive mind of Adelie Martucci. That's okay, Paul Strautmanet is good, but she gets in foul trouble. She isn't offensive-minded. Adelie Martucci had it all. They were missing that spark. And yes, this year they were able to have success. But that's because the teams surrounding them in the MAC were horrible. They were 28th in RPI of all conferences around the country, so it made Quinnipiac look that much better. I'm not taking anything away from this year's team. I think they were fantastic. Clearly, they beat Miami again, an amazing accomplishment. But last year's team had all the pieces this year and more.
Yeah, but these pieces weren't as good last year. That's the point I'm trying to make is, you know, you can't really judge just off the Miami game. Those are different circumstances. I mean, this game was played in Connecticut, last year's was in Miami. I'm saying this year's players have taken such a leap that it's made up for Adelie Martucci and Morgan Manns not being here.
I just don't think so, but we'll have to agree to disagree.
We'll talk about a discussion, guys. We have to take a short break, but when we return, we have some exhilarating final roars for you. Don't go anywhere. The madness is marching on.
Hello, and tonight on Sandwich News, we will determine what makes a good sandwich and a bad sandwich. First, the standard sandwich. Uninspired, and frankly, a little gross. But we have here a Ray and Mike sandwich, the Cadillac of sandwiches. And if you want one, well,
come on down to Ray and Mike's at 3030 Whitney Ave, Hamden, Connecticut. Open every day from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Qcash is accepted.
now that's a sandwich.
This is Sports Pause.
Are you concerned with the 0-2 start for this team?
Right here, top of the circle, again, rips it past the Jasper's goalie.
What will breaking the record mean for the program himself? I mean, 138 wins.
There's the tough shot. What a nice play by Mikey Dixon.
He's good in transition. Just a really dynamic scorer he can create for himself.
And now, Emma, it's time for the top 5 plays of the week.
Coming up on #that, we talk about some fun events around Quinnipiac's campus.
And we talk about some weird news that's been discussed around Twitter.
All that and more, we are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news.
Happy you all stayed with us on Bobcat Breakdown. It's time to roll and roar. Sierra, let's hear what you've got first.
Well, on Monday night, the Quinnipiac women's basketball team experienced what it was like to play in front of nearly 9,000 people. The men's basketball team and coaching staff were among those people. And while the fan engagement at Lender Court has been improving year after year, it's time for a big jump. Quinnipiac has now won 3 NCAA tournament games in 2 years and have dominated the MAC since it joined the conference. If the Bobcats can gain the respect and support of UConn fans across the state, then where are the people of Hamden and the surrounding area? During the regular season, winning is not only fun for the players, it's fun for the fans too. And the women's basketball team wins a lot. I expect the national exposure this team has received for the 2nd year in a row to drive up the ticket sales for the 2018-2019 season.
First off, Trisha Fabry has never indicated that she has any interest in leaving Quinnipiac University. After a 2nd straight season which saw the Bobcats earn an NCAA tournament victory, her work here is just getting started. However, for the people who think she should explore new challenges, there's one aspect you're not considering. This place is her home. Fabry just completed her 23rd season as head coach here at Quinnipiac. That's 23 years of going to work at the same place and of building relationships and memories. There's a reason coaches stay at the same program for so long. They make it their home. I'm only finishing my 3rd year here at Quinnipiac and I don't even want to leave. She's built this program up from the ground and it's her home. Thankfully for Quinnipiac, she isn't going anywhere.
If you turned on the TV this morning in the Northeast, the weatherman probably said, "Happy first day of spring," followed by, "You can expect 8 to 12 inches of snow." With the heat struggling to hit upper digits, the same went for the baseball team. Squaring off against UNC Wilmington this past weekend, they too struggled to put the bat on the ball, leading to an 0-3 performance. Meteorologist Darren Sweeney of NBC Connecticut said, there are some signals of a coastal storm, although data trends don't show a hit. Not sure if he was talking about the Snow or the Bobcats, who only had 17 hits this weekend, while the Seahawks combined for 46. But being that today is International Day of Happiness, I will end on a positive note. It is spring and the flowers will eventually bloom. We will wait and see if the same seasonal effect will allocate to the Bobcats. With everyone returning from spring break this week, that will do it for us tonight. We hope you enjoyed our company. To stay updated on all our content, follow us on Twitter at Q30Sports and at QBSN, along with our websites Q30TV.com and theQBSN.com. For Sierra Goodwill, Josh Silverman, and the crew behind the scenes that I'm extremely grateful to work with, I'm Robin Brown. We'll see you next time.